And we're live. Hello, 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 my
Hi,
friends. All right,
Nicolas.
how you doing, Baptiste?
Very good. Thank you very much. It's a beautiful day. It's raining very hard, actually, but it's still a beautiful day in Tokyo.
Nice, nice. All right, let me see if I can. I'm gonna try to. Hang on just a second. All right, you hear my music? I used to like start the show and do this right away, but when I started and do this right away, apparently like the audio of me speaking and the music doesn't get along. So now I'm like, well, I'll give it a second and then I'll play it. And
Oh,
anyway,
pretty cool. No, there was a
enjoy.
really cool music. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I picked it up myself.
Nice.
All right. You guys will have to forgive me. I got a cough drop and, it's been a day. But we're here to talk with Baptiste, Pinson Wu. I'm sure
Nice.
I did these.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was
Thank
really
you.
good.
All right. Yeah. Author of Undead Samurai and more. Go ahead and introduce yourself for the audience, please, Baptiste.
Sure. So my name in the real 100% pronunciation is Baptiste Pinson. As you mentioned in your link, I'm a Frenchman, so I come from France, and I live in Tokyo, and I'm a self-published writer, mostly of historical fiction and historical fantasy. So I have 4 books out at the moment. Undead Samurai is the latest one, but before that, I have published 3 books in a series called the Three Kingdoms Chronicles, which is pure historical fiction set in 2nd, 3rd century China during one of the bloodiest civil war of human history, called the Three Kingdoms. This series is going to be very long, so stay with me on this one, and there will be more books published very soon. I have a trilogy coming this year, so 3 books on North mythology retelling as well. So it's not exclusively East Asian fiction, is what I mean. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. That's pretty good. Oh,
and
go ahead.
I have Charlie, nice having you with us. I also have a small YouTube channel called Back in Time Fiction, on which I discuss historical fiction books and TV shows and series and these kind of things. It's bound to evolve a little bit very soon, but for now, yeah, it's mostly about historical fiction.
Nice. That's exciting. All right. And you've only been writing for a year and a half, but you already got 4 books out and your 5th one's coming out soon.
Yeah, no, I've been writing quite seriously since 2018, but I've been published for a year and a half. Yeah,
so, I should have made the distinction. Yes, yes, yes.
There's a huge difference there. Some people they managed to publish their first novel. I didn't. I don't know how those geniuses do it. I wasn't feeling confident enough until book number 7, basically.
Yeah. Well, hey. You're in good company. Brandon Sanderson, who sold a book or 2, he didn't publish until his 6th book,
Which took him like 4 weeks, 5 weeks to write all of them, I guess.
That sounds right. Yeah. Bo, good evening as well. You're an absolute legend too. Thanks, Bo, for hanging out.
Bo is the best. He's carrying the community on his shoulders.
Oh my gosh. With the launch of the SFF Insiders.
Yeah, that was nice.
Killing it.
Yeah. I was in China when they launched it, so I couldn't get on the website as much as I wanted, but I've been on it since, and yeah, it's beautiful, this thing. Everyone should go visit SSF Insiders and read their reviews.
Bo made that website all himself too, and he's not a professional web dev. Pretty impressive, right?
Yeah, it's really neat. Yeah.
Right.
You have I think there are 2 reviews for my books on it. So go check my books on this website. Yeah.
So that's a perfect segue into the way that we connected initially was on Twitter, because you got one of your first 1-star reviews, and I felt like what an accomplishment, actually, because while of course nobody wants a 1-star review, it is very clear evidence that your book has gone beyond just friends and family. Someone that you didn't know read that and thought it was a stinker, but they're wrong. But that's okay, So we'll talk about that. I want to talk to you about kind of get to know you a little bit more, talk about jobs you've done, talk about how you've ended up in Japan from being in in France for so long, and you're by Mont Saint Michael, right? That's where you lived around there.
Yeah,
I think
Mont Saint Michel.
Michel. Excuse me.
No
Which
problem.
is super cool, though. I know the
Yeah.
structure and the way, like, I mean, the road out there gets totally covered with tide as the tide comes in, right?
Yeah. Well, this thing, all right, for people who don't know Mont Saint Michel, it's a very small island, and on this island you have a small village that has been there for like 400-500 years, and on top of it you have a church, and they started building this church in like 8th century, and then they made it bigger. Now it's like a very big church, right? It's not a cathedral, but it's quite huge. Then this island was turned into a prison during the French Revolution, and so it's
wow.
a place that's full of history. And they built a road to go there like 100 years ago. And yes, it used to be like when the tide comes back, the road was underwater. Now there were a lot of ecological problem with this road, so they destroyed it like 10 years ago, maybe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now you have a road, but it's more of a bridge connecting the land to this island. So the water goes under. Basically, you never have those kinds of. I mean, it's really difficult to get those pictures of the water surrounding the island completely now. Yeah. So
that is fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a very beautiful place. I grew up right next to it, and I think it's like the 3rd most visited place in France. So for French people, it's very important, but it's not as famous overseas. Yeah. So if you ever go to France, head to Normandy, go check Mont Saint Michel. It's pretty cool.
I agree. All right, Sean Connelly. Hey.
Hey, Sean.
It says, everyone's got to go read Undead Samurai immediately. So, if you're here, go take that advice.
Yeah.
Angie Alexander. Hey, evening, buddy. Good to see you. Thanks for hanging out. All right. So where do we want to begin? We should probably begin with Sean Connelly's suggestion. Talk about your book. So Undead Samurai. Let me see. You said The Seven Samurai meets The Walking Dead, which is fantastic. Tell us a little bit more about Undead Samurai, and how did you come up with this idea? Clearly there's a little bit of fantasy in this historical work.
No, absolutely. So the way it went is I had written 4 books in this Chinese series, so that's very that's pure historical fiction in the sense there is no fantasy, no magic, no whatever, and it's heavily researched, and I wanted a bit of a palate cleanser, something that was funnier to write and a bit less serious. And I always wanted to write something with zombies. I love zombies. They are really cool. They are such a nice asset in a story. So I knew I would write something with zombies. I just didn't know in which context. It has to be historical, but there are a bunch of historical settings I was interested in. Could have been ancient Greece, could have been like a World War II or even one. Anyway, there were a bunch of settings, but I live in Japan. I never wrote anything about Japanese history so far. So I was like, yeah, let's do samurai. So that's how was born the idea of basically mixing horror genre, zombies, and Japanese history. So Undead Samurai was started like this, and then the rest came very naturally. Like from the moment I had this idea of zombie and samurai, basically the characters that just popped in. I barely thought about them, and they just kept coming in until I had this crew of 9 warriors. Not all of them are samurai per se, but 9 warriors going on a quest to destroy an item. All right, it feels familiar, right? To destroy an item that gives necromantic powers to the bad guy, who is called the Drum Master. So in this novel, you have a bad guy, the Drum Master. He's using a Japanese drum to revive the dead, and he's threatening all of Japan with it. Now those 9 guys, they have to cross Japan, a small part of Japan, in order to destroy an item of power. Feels very Lord of the Ring in that sense.
Yeah, you got 9 guys like the Fellowship, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Not on purpose. I swear I didn't think about the Lord of the Rings until I finished, and someone, an arc reader,
and then you're like,
told me,
oh yeah.
yeah, it feels familiar. It's like, oh, that's true. And then some people started comparing Undead Samurai to other books or movies. The one that came up quite often is Rogue One, the Star Wars
Oh, nice.
story, Rogue One. I think it's very true the way the characters are being brought together and how we go from not knowing them to caring about them very deeply. I think it's close to Rogue One in that sense. So
That's fun. I would be thrilled with that comparison. I thought Rogue One was
yeah,
like fantastic.
it's probably still the best Star Wars movie. I know some people here might be pissed, but I still think that's the best Star Wars movies out there.
I'm I think I'm with you. I feel gosh. I think for me, like, not to get on the tangent, but we're gonna get on a little bit of a tangent because that's what we get this week. I think like Rogue One is maybe one of the top movies, maybe the top movie, and then Mandalorian is like top TV for Star Wars right now, right?
Easy, yeah.
Yeah.
Mandalorian is the best. It's funny, right? The best TV show and the best movie don't have Jedis in them.
True. Josh, how you doing? Good. Yes, your Rogue One is really good. Thanks for hanging out.
It has Donnie Yen. What else do you want?
Right. Undead Samurai proves once again why the katana is the best weapon ever. All you need to survive is I feel like a katana would be pretty strong in a zombie apocalypse. It makes a good point.
Yeah, I'm not. The thing is, you have to know how to use it. So it's not the best weapon for beginners, I would say. But with a bit of mastery, definitely katana is the best. Otherwise, you need to go with something a little bit more
like cricket bat, Shaun of the Dead.
Exactly.
Maybe chainsaw. I feel like that could get you far.
I don't know. It gets stuck.
That just might be the American in me.
Probably.
Word, yeah. Tim, I enjoyed Rogue One, but I just watch it for the Vader cameo. Listen,
so wrong.
That was pretty sick too. That was right.
Was
I remember. Yeah, he shows up at the end, and it was like, oh, right.
Yeah, that's true. We were not used to seeing Vader as a cameo back then. Now he's in every TV show and many movies.
Yeah. Oh, there's Vader again. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I guess he's in Ashoka, but I haven't watched Ashoka.
Oh, I
yet.
haven't. Me neither.
I hope that's not a spoiler for you, Baptiste, but he's in there.
No. I've seen enough spoilers. I know he's in there.
Plus, right. Okay,
no.
Good.
It's next on my list. No, the truth is, I started watching Star Wars with my son a month something ago. So we watched pretty much everything related to the prequel. Watch them in order. And I was really surprised. You know what? He actually really liked the original trilogy, even though those movies are a bit old. It's sometimes for kids, it's tough to watch those old movies. He got on it right away. So now we are watching The Mandalorian, and obviously next is going to be Ashoka. Sorry.
Nice. Yeah, I gotta check that out. Anyway, but there's also that Vader and Obi-Wan. I guess the show's Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that one. I did watch Book of Boba Fett, but I thought that was okay, but not nearly as good as Mandalorian. Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, I think I checked the first episode and I didn't. Yeah, it didn't stuck with me.
Yeah. Anyway, well, so Undead Samurai. I love that you're putting those two things together. I want to talk about my undead zombie story at some point, but we'll get there. We'll work our way to that.
Nice.
How much? So, Walking Dead was a bit of an influence. There's also this show that's coming out lately, Shogun. How were you familiar with that work before you started writing Undead Samurai?
No, because the thing is, I never read Shogun. I have a bit of a bias. I was quite tired of this Last Samurai type of a white savior type of story, and I'm not saying they're not good. Last Samurai is a great movie,
right?
And it's based on a true story, except the guy's French. I will never tire of saying it. It's not American. But like all those movies with like Matt Damon going to save China and all of this, I'm tired of it. So I never read Shogun because I saw it. The main character is a European character going in Japan, and I know it probably doesn't take away how amazing the book is. Like the TV show is fantastic, so I'll probably read it at some point. But it wasn't an inspiration. I prefer my stories to be like in China with the Chinese cast of characters, Japanese characters in a Japanese story. For me, that's what I want. I think that's what we need too. So
nice.
Shogun wasn't an inspiration, but yeah, The Walking Dead definitely was an inspiration, and not just the TV show. I love the comics. The main inspiration, I would say, is the Telltale games. I don't know if you know those games. Like those were originally like phone games, I think. I'm not sure.
Okay.
And it's set in the Walking Dead world, and you have to make choices, dialogue choice, and all of this.
Oh, I love that.
It's really good. Like they made 5 seasons basically, so 5 different games. And I finished the last one. Like my heart was pounding. I couldn't take it anymore at the end of the 5th one. And I think that's when I decided, you know what, it's time to write this zombie story. That was the trigger.
Yeah.
This game was the trigger. I always wanted to write something with zombies, but I didn't know when. And I played this game, and I was like, nope, you need to do it now.
Now is the time. Yeah. That's cool. That's neat.
Yeah.
So those games are it's originally on a phone, and you're making choices of like what happens, like which kind of almost you can choose your own adventure.
Exactly. Who do you save? Are you going to be honest? Which weapon do you choose? And then of course there is a bit of action. And the first season of the game, the first game, you would say it's mostly choices. You don't have a lot of action, but by the end, 5th one, you actually do have a bit of action. So no, that's a very good game. I think the 3rd season was wasn't a great, but beside this, amazing. This thing was really good. So I really recommend it. Yeah.
Telltale's Bone Game and Batman, both great. Never played the Walking Dead one. It's interesting.
Yeah, never played the Batman one. So
yeah,
it's a good. Thanks, Joshua.
Right. Have you played? So 2 things. One, Friday I'm talking to a woman named Livia J. Elliott, and she is making those sort of interactive narratives, and I'm excited to go talk to her about how she's doing it. And right.
Yeah.
2, there's another one kind of like that called Lifeline. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I don't know about this one.
So it's on phone, and I played it years ago, but it's my favorite like interactive narrative that I keep I'm trying to, I just love it so much that, one of those things telling people, but it's so neat. Like the premise of it, you open up the app and you get a notification you're starting dialogue from a person named Taylor. Taylor being an androgynous name, it's never really identified whether Taylor is male or female. So you as the sort of player or reader get to decide, which I think is a genius touch.
Right, nice. Yeah.
But Taylor is just talking to you about how, for me, she was crashed in her spaceship on a planet, and everyone else is dead, and she's the only survivor, and you're the only person that she can reach out to somehow. But she's trying to figure out how to survive, and you need to help Taylor make the decisions of what to go do, right? What's super, super cool about this one, I think, is as you make the decision, like you say, okay, I think you should go walk over there, that sort of thing. Taylor's like, okay, well, I'm going to go do that. I'll get back in touch with you, right? And then you don't hear anything for hours, but then you get a push notification on your phone, and Taylor's like, okay, I made it. But that whole time, like, I'm just like stressing, like, oh, did I just kill Taylor? Did I make the wrong decision? It's really like, I love that it does that because it's so subtle, but it adds like such an extra element to it that you wouldn't get if it was just a book. And I think that's really cool about having
that you have
that
to
way.
wait, and the waiting part is it's pretty genius.
Right.
All right, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, highly recommend.
Yeah, so Telltale made, I think they I don't know if they exist still, but they made those great Walking Dead games, and that's what triggered me to start Undead Samurai. Now the rest, I don't know, the inspiration, it's mostly me, but with all the background, all the TV shows and movies and games from before.
Nice. Tell me a little bit about like inspiration for the trilogy of books that are already out there in the world.
So the Three Kingdoms Chronicles. So right now you could call it a trilogy because 3 of them are out. By the end, it should be around 12, maybe 15 if you include the spin-offs.
Okay, great.
All of this. So well, obviously, as you know, there are a lot of video games there as well.
Yes.
So mostly. So this period of history, so 3rd, 2nd century China, I discovered with the Dynasty Warriors games. So
great games, super fun.
those are games that have been going on for like 25 years maybe, and then now they are number 9 plus all the Dynasty Warriors, Legends, and Empire and all of this. So you have so many games in that hack and slash genre. So I discovered this period of history through Dynasty Warriors 2, I believe. And I've been playing since. But then you have more games and books and TV shows. You have so many media related to that story, to that historian story. But you don't have I don't think there are many Western novels on the Three Kingdoms. So I felt like I had this little blue ocean just for myself. I wanted to write this story that I love already, and make it accessible to people who don't know China, don't know Chinese culture very well. And so I wanted to write a story based in China, but write it the way maybe Bernard Cornwell would write it. So he's my favorite writer, and I wanted to write something like this.
Love it.
Yeah.
I want to show briefly the cover for that one. I think your covers are looking mighty fine, but
they're pretty cool. A bit flashy, this
right?
one. After a year and a half of looking at it, I'm like, damn, you're yellow.
It works though. Like, I mean, I think it really it sets a tone, and it also is
eye-catching,
like distinct. Yeah, eye-catching and also distinct. It doesn't look like it kind of a at least not like a fantasy cover, like there's
that's
in a good way.
Yeah, no, I think there was a big challenge when I worked on the cover with the cover artist. Is like when you publish your books, you don't want to go too unique. You don't want to be unique because then you have some standards, especially when it comes to historical fiction, because readers have expectations, right, of historical fiction. But at the same time, the Three Kingdoms is a story that is well known by fans of video games and Chinese culture and TV shows. So I wanted something that felt both historical fiction and fairly fresh, and related to this to those games and all of this. So that's why I settled on this one. Now the cover artist was amazing. I basically didn't tell him much, and he produced this beautiful cover. So that was quite cool. Now the problem is you don't have so many stock pictures of Chinese warriors. So we've been using the same model over and over until the current one. So I'm really tired of this guy.
Really tired.
So book number 4 is still using this model and in different poses and stuff. But from book number 5, I will do something else. It's going to be quite the basic of the cover will remain the same, but we'll remove the model.
So what I'm hearing is everyone needs to go around out and buy the books right now for ourselves, for our friends, everyone, and then you could just buy some replica armor, and get someone to model it for you for a new cover, right?
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, that would be fantastic. I went to I was in China like for the month of March, and I went to this very ancient, not very ancient, sorry, a replica of an ancient city.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Very touristical, But I think they use it. They use this place as a studio for filming movies and TV shows. And
that's cool.
And I rented like an armor to take some picture with. So I wore this very close. Actually, it looks a lot like this one. And I was like, cool. If only I was Chinese, I could use it for the cover.
Right. Can't get away with it. Yeah. No, that's cool though. How have you heard that way back in the day, Christopher Paolini, when he was first putting out the Aragon books, he would cosplay as his character while he was going and doing signings and stuff? How fun would it be to do that? As it like you have your armor and go to a con? Wouldn't that be great?
I would love it. I would definitely do that. Except
nice.
I don't have a lot of readers in Japan.
Here's that. Yeah. Do you I assume we'll get into a little bit more about you living in Japan and whatnot. I assume that you speak at least some Japanese, yeah?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. So
enough to translate your book, or not on that level?
No, not there. Okay. I'm not there, and especially writing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I could write a lot, but I'm very shy about my Japanese because my wife is bilingual. I mean, she's more than she speaks more, but she speaks perfect Japanese. My son, who is 8, basically that's his mother tongue at this point, right? And
Sure.
he's anytime I speak Japanese, one of them is making fun of me. So I almost never speak Japanese nowadays.
Does your son speak French?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I'd
I
say my
almost wish he didn't. I mean, you'd have that, like, you know, he could
no,
make fun of you, and then you'd be like, well,
I
you know
still
what, you know,
I still make fun of him. His French is not perfect, so I make fun of him.
revenge.
Exactly. Now he speaks good Japanese and French and Chinese, and we never pushed him to learn English because that was my secret language with my wife. Basically, we speak in English.
Yeah, sure.
But then when he was 3 or 4, we realized he actually understands almost everything. So, so that's gone. Yeah.
I am incredibly jealous. My mother was born in Argentina. I lived in Southern California, which, of course, although it's United States, there's a huge Mexican population there. I never could get the hang of it, man. I really I tried over and over, but part of the problem was like my mother spoke like Argentine or sometimes Puerto Rican Spanish because she also had family in Puerto Rico and she lived there for a while. And then it's just different enough from like Mexican Spanish that like it was hard.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, I'm jealous
cool.
too. He's lucky, this kid.
Right? Yeah, that's cool. All right, I want to share the screen with Undead Samurai. I want to talk about that a little bit. Sorry. There we go. All right, so Undead Samurai, just to kind of close out our little conversation on that. I like the cover on this too. I noticed like this is subtle, but if you look at the hands, like one of them looks very alive, and the other looks maybe not so fresh.
Exactly. So there was one of the few requirements I had with the cover artist, and I wanted to give this mystery is like, what is the undead? Is the samurai undead, or are the samurai fighting the undead? So that's why one of the hands is kind of zombified or dirty or rottening, and the other one is clean. And when I received my book the first time, I showed it to my son, and he was like, "Oh, the left hand is so scary." So I was like, "Good, it's working. It's working."
Good. Yeah. That's cool. All right. Ooh, that's interesting. I didn't know I could do that the way that
one big screen and
right. Yeah, learning new things with StreamYard. Anyway, so all right, I want to get into talking about Japan and you moving and living, and we'll talk a little bit about France. But before that, I want to tell, if you'll indulge me, Baptiste, I'd like to share a little bit about my zombie story. Is that all right?
Yeah, please.
So I have a ridiculous zombie story. I'm not going to tell you like too much about the story, but I'm going to tell you about how I came to write this story. So if anyone is interested, I don't know if you know Joe Byrne, JCM Byrne. He's been doing this Grim Dwarf magazine on his Patreon. I think it's on his Patreon for free. You can go check that out. And on issue 1 of Grim Dwarf magazine, this is actually published. But here's what happened. So I have a lovely in-person writing group, right? And there's 4 of us. And one of the 2 women in the writing group, she wrote this really wonderful piece, a great short story that's sort of poking fun at like the romance genre. She has a character named Mildred who hates that her name is Mildred. She wants sort of a more exotic, like interesting, sexy name, and but she's waiting in Midwest America for her like billionaire Esteban beautiful man to somehow come and rescue her and save her from all this, right? And like people around her are like, Mildred, you're crazy. And she's like, no, it's gonna happen. I just need to change my name. She's insane. So we were critiquing this, and my friend, another guy in the group, he's like, so I'm reading this, and I'm wondering at this point, Dana, the author, Dana, is Mildred, while she's thinking about Esteban, is she, doing things right? And Dana's like, no, that's funny, and like, I mean, maybe, but no, that's not what I had in mind. He's like, okay. He reads further, and he's like, okay, like reading okay, but at this point, she's got to be doing the thing, right? And she's like, so at that point, it just became like a running joke for us about how like, this is the point where your character needs to be masturbating. That was like, we kept saying that about different characters at different points and like all these different stories. And it was like a running joke for weeks. Then somehow Dana got the idea that like like there was a prompt somewhere for zombie stories, and she was like, "Oh, masturbating zombies. That's what you need." So that she right, she was like, "That's what each of us in our writing group needs to do. We each need to write our own version of a masturbating zombie story." So that.
So is this how they become zombies, or are they zombies that can't stop? No, I'm not sure.
So we each got to we each had our own.
I think there might be some internet issue on Nicolas' side. So now I'm by myself.
How embarrassing! Sorry about that.
No problem.
The microphone, I dropped it, and or the mouse, I dropped it, and then it hit back. Anyway, so yes, we each had our own interpretation of what time to bust out a TikTok dance. We each had our own interpretation of the prompt. My partner, the other guy in the group, he wrote one where basically that's how they turn.
Yeah, right. I think that this one makes sense. Yeah, this one.
Yes. Mine was that actually, like, well, I'll leave it. You can go read it on Grim Dwarf and see my interpretation of the prompt. But
here, another reason to go on Grim Dwarf.
Yeah. So ridiculous, but I had fun writing it. So there we go.
I promise anyone watching that my zombies don't do that.
That's a good promise to make. It really
dumb zombies. All right.
It really shouldn't exist. You're right. Yeah. All right. So, Baptiste, thank you for humoring me. Thanks you for sticking around while I drop my mouse and be an idiot. Anyway, so you lived in Normandy, around that area, all your life, and then you're like, you know what?
Now
I'm getting out of here.
I've been out for almost half of my life now, but yeah, I grew up.
Really? Okay.
No. I grew up in Normandy until I was 18, so until I finished high school. So, but I love Normandy. It's such a beautiful place, full of history, and not just World War II. Because every time I speak with people around the world, they're like, "Yeah, that's where the World War II happened."
Can I tell you, like,
yeah.
I don't want to cut you off, but I have to share this story because it makes me mad. There was an American woman that I went on one date with, and her father was in the military, and we were hanging out, and she's like, "Yeah, I went to France and whatever," and it was cool. But it was all right. And I was like, "Really? What was not great about it?" And she's like, "Well, like the people." And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" She says, "That's true." She says they don't really remember what we did for them, and she's talking about World War II, and I'm like, because I guarantee, she doesn't think about all that the French did for Americans in the American Revolution. And plus, it's just such a stupid, ridiculous thing to say. Needless to say, there wasn't a second date. But anyway, so much more history than just World War II. I agree. By the way, thank you, folks, for coming back on Twitter after I dropped my mouse like an idiot. But
the thing is, it's really untrue. French people remember very well, and
there is that whole graveyard of troops there in Normandy, right?
Yeah, plus people who were, especially people who were alive then. My great grandparents, two of them, my last two grandparents passed away not so long ago, and they were alive, and they remember very well World War II and the debt that we owe America, but not just US, but so many other countries like Canada and Australia, and they keep talking about it. How like my great grandma, for example, she received shoes. So American soldiers gave them shoes that from their bodies that passed, that they were killed, and she sold those shoes so she could buy her wedding dress. So she always says she got married thanks to American soldiers. And you always have so many stories, and they keep talking about it, and they lived with this gratitude in their heart for America. So it's not true. French people remember very well, but we also know it's not just America. A lot of nationalities helped all the way from Africa and Australia and all those places.
Yeah.
And yes, there is much more than World War II.
Yeah. That's
But
really
when
lovely. I didn't know that, but I wasn't expecting that at all, because I felt like her opinion was stupid. But you know, but that's cool to hear, and that's so human. Like one of the things I think is interesting about kind of history and drawing it out into fiction are the stories and the way that it's so human. That's so interesting there about how boots help someone get married. You know, I love that.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have when you start writing historical fiction, it doesn't matter if it's like in East China 2,000 years ago, or if it's World War II in Normandy. The themes are going to be the same. You know, the themes are going to be very similar. The culture is different, but the main themes have to be human in order to work. Now, obviously, if you put zombies, that's no longer historical fiction per se. That's fantasy, right? But even then, the themes can stay the same, and that's what will transport the reader into a story. So yeah. Now, of course, when you say the word Normandy, of course, World War II pops up. But yeah, no, much more than this happened. And if you visit my region, you have castles that are like 1,000 years old, and so many churches that are older, and all of this. So yeah, it's beautiful.
Again, as an American, where there just simply is not that sort of like history like that. I went to Istanbul, and it was just crazy.
Beautiful,
right? Yeah. Well, not only beautiful, and it was beautiful, but like just the amount of history that's just dripping in that city compared to anything in America. I went into Hagia Sophia, and there's some marble on the ground, different circles of marble on the ground, and right in the center of these circles is where the emperor of the Byzantine Empire was coronated each time. Like, that's so cool.
No, that is amazing. And the thing is, you have a lot of old countries. Like I'm going back to China here, but that's a country that has a culture spanning over 5,000 years. But most of it is brand new. You don't have a lot of very old buildings that still exist. Most of them have been rebuilt. Of course, you have the Great Wall, and you have the Forbidden City, but it lost a lot of its history in the process, right? But you have places like Istanbul and Western Europe. I don't know much about Eastern Europe, but I'm sure it's the same, where you have buildings that have been there, unmoved, unchanged for like hundreds, thousands of years. Yeah, that is quite fantastic. Yeah.
So why is that? Why is the some of the Chinese buildings have it? Is it just purely like construction methods? Like they didn't tend to like build out a stone that can last like thousands of years, or is it?
Yeah, and they had this little thing in the 50s, 60s called the Cultural Revolution, and a lot of buildings were destroyed in the process.
Shame. What a shame!
Every revolution will tear something down, and that was their time. Plus, maybe not as much in China, but in Japan, a lot of the buildings are built with wood, are made of wood to sustain all the earthquakes and all of this, and to be rebuilt more easily and all of that. Plus, in a Buddhist tradition, you have to rebuild buildings every 20 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Most buildings in the Buddhist tradition, and even in the Shinto tradition, actually, have to be rebuilt every 20 years. So nothing looks very old in that sense. Now, while in Western Europe, everything is built with like very gray, solid stone. Everything looks like Winterfell, in northern France, England, it looks like Winterfell, and it doesn't go away. Like the city I grew up in, it's a small city, 10,000 people. It's called Avranches. And you still have the foundations of the castle that have been built like 1,000 years ago. So I grew up with those places, not thinking that was amazing. Then I started traveling and realized, holy hell, that was pretty cool, actually.
So when you grow up with that sort of thing, and then you read about places like Winterfell, are you like does it? Because to me, it feels home. That's so crazy.
That's why European, I think, people, when we started watching Game of Thrones or reading the book, we were like, wait, what period of history is this? I don't recognize the names. You see Winterfell, and it just feels like reading a history manual to some extent. Yeah,
that is just because again, American, where we just don't have that. It feels very fantastical. That's interesting. Feels like dragons.
Yeah, like this kind of architecture, dragons. It's all part of fantasy. But
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
That's
I
cool.
understand.
That's so cool.
So, so yeah,
So how you grew up in Normandy, you grew up around castles, awesome. But then at some point, I guess you graduate high school and you're like, I'm done with France. And you
yeah,
just moved over to like East
pretty
Asia.
much. So no, I went to university with the idea. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew I wanted it to be somewhere else.
Hmm.
So I studied English literature, British
Okay.
literature to begin with, and then as soon as I could, I switched to international marketing and these kind of things, which is not that's not an interesting topic. I didn't like it for the topic, but it allowed me to study in Japan, and then to move to China and Japan and all of this. So I did my studies so that I could live anywhere in the world. And I had 2 internships in China, 1 semester of exchange studies in Japan. And as soon as possible, basically since 2012, I didn't really live much in France. So
Hmm.
I spent the last 12 years in either China or Japan, and except a 2 years break in France to start building my own company. Yeah.
Oh, is that okay? Yeah, nice. Um, wow, incredible. So, what is it about like China and Japan and Eastern Europe that like really that drew you and wanted you to live there? Not just visit, not see the
Mm.
sights, but like be immersed in it. You know?
I don't know. The thing is, I like traveling, but
Hmm.
I really feel like you only scratch the surface when you travel, and I don't think you
Sure.
know a place until you've lived at least 1 year, like a full cycle in it, until you've got lost in this place. So I much prefer to live in a foreign country than visiting a foreign country.
Hmm.
Now, what do I like? I have no idea. I grew up wanting to live in Eastern Asia. You can blame like stuff like Ninja Turtles for it.
Oh, that's so
so
funny. Yeah.
this kind of stories, since I was 3, 4, all I wanted was Japan and China. So I
Hmm.
made it happen, and I can't tell you why
Sure.
exactly,
Well,
but
because ninjas are cool. Clearly, that must be.
yeah,
Yeah.
that obviously ninjas are cool, but they are not the only thing that pulled me to Japan.
That.
So
Yeah. I
no,
have
no,
a. Go ahead, please.
no, I was just going to say I was always fascinated with those cultures. Love studying them and talking to people around here. It's very different from Western Europe, and
Hmm.
obviously to America. And yeah, it feels like special to be here. You know.
Yeah.
Mm.
I have a friend that's in the American Navy, and he's been stationed in Japan for the last few years, and
Mm.
he's just like he's trying to get me to come out, which I would love to do. It's just like 2 kids, 4 dogs, my mom,
Oh, I
like
know.
lots of stuff. Um, that is a great question, but we're gonna get yeah, but he loves it there and like talks about how nice it is, how clean it is,
Yeah.
how and the food.
Mm.
Right.
Japan is such an easy place to love, and then you have
Mm.
usually, I think most foreigners living in Japan, after 2 or 3 years, you have a moment where the honeymoon phase stop, and you suddenly kind of hate Japan. It's really easy to hate at some point, but then it comes back, right? So my advice, anyone who wants to live in Japan, when you have this phase, just wait it out, and it's gonna come back. Uh, but
That's
yeah,
funny.
no, everything is clean and safe, and maybe not the nature so much, but the people are very nice and gentle and welcoming to some extent.
Yeah.
And like
Well,
like you said, the food. My God, the food.
right. Yeah.
Just for that, yeah. Mm.
Okay. Bo, he's got a few good ones. And J. Alexander's actually right. He's like, Bo's just coming in. First, I thought this was hilarious. Winterfell feels like Aunt Susie's house. Baptiste. That we almost timed that for like a spit take.
Yeah,
Oh my,
almost.
yeah. Um, and then, but he says, "Who's your favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and why is it Leonardo?"
Yeah,
Right?
bang on. It's Leo. Yeah,
Is it Leo?
Leo.
Okay.
Yeah, Leo. Or no, the thing is, I would love. I think Raphael would be my favorite. The only problem is that's my little sister's name, and
Not,
and I,
oh,
and I,
okay.
I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
so jealous of that growing up. Then I was like, nope, it's Leo.
No.
Leo is the best.
No. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So no,
That's
Leo
funny.
is definitely the best. He has katanas. What else do you want?
No, yeah. Is your sister Raphael or is it like a Rafaela?
No, Raphael. But in
Is
French,
it?
we just put 2 L and an E to make it
Okay.
feminine. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Mm.
Yeah, that's cool.
So just for that, Raphael was
Yeah,
my favorite growing up. Yeah,
that's so
exactly.
funny. Yeah, like my brother's was Leo, and then I felt like, well, I mean, I wasn't super drawn to Leos, but like
Mm.
I am not kind of the like hothead, but Raphael was my favorite. Raphael was
Yeah,
like,
no,
yeah,
no.
he's just fun, you know.
Raphael is the coolest, but Leo is the most Japanese. That's why it was Leo.
Mm,
To be more specific, Leo was my favorite because he had this very cool attitude, like respectful to the master, and
yeah,
probably the most serious about the training. So yeah, that was Leo.
I was gonna ask if maybe Donatello had, you felt like kind of Japanese too, but you make a good case for Leo.
Yeah,
You make a good case.
yeah, no, Leo is the most Japanese, I think.
All
Like in
right.
the last in the series that is about, I don't know if it's just over or about to be over, the comics. They did this very cool change twist where the Ninja Turtles are the spirits of young samurai who were killed in feudal Japan. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So they are no longer really ninja, but so I mean, their past
Right. Yeah,
life
no,
they were
right.
samurai. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah,
Right.
I like
Yeah,
that.
because ninjas are anti-samurai. Right.
No, that's the thing. It's a lot of things are very misunderstood about ninjas. The fact is,
Okay.
most of them were samurai. So
What?
yeah, I mean, the ninjas that you know, the famous ones, like the
I don't know
Hanzo.
famous ninjas. No, actually, I take it back. I know 4 famous ninjas: Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, and Michelangelo.
So the thing is, samurai is a class. It doesn't mean you are a warrior and a soldier or all of this. But so the famous ninjas, for example, Hanzo Hattori is
Mhm.
probably one of the most famous ninja that existed. Even though actually there was 2 or 3 of them named Hanzo Hattori. They were samurai to begin with. That means they were of the upper rank.
Mhm.
And the idea of a shinobi who is like in the darkness and all, that came a bit later, if you want. So they were first samurai, and they pretty much invented the idea of ninja or shinobi as a way to. It's just a way to do guerrilla warfare to begin with.
All right. I am super fascinated by this, but first, Bo's order: Leo, Mikey, Donnie, really? Raph
Damn it!
last?
Why Raph on last? Raph has to
Yeah,
be
I know.
at worst second.
Bo, I don't know, Bo. I want to hear
Uh,
everyone else though. Like, let me know your favorite Ninja Turtle. NJ,
the
if you're
ranking.
on Twitter, I want you to quote tweet this, and I want to know your favorite Ninja Turtle. Please. That's what I want.
But it's
Raph is a
tough.
grump too much. You know what?
Uh,
Fair, and like I get it, but also you're wrong.
yeah, because it really depends on which group of Ninja Turtles we are talking about. There have been so many like TV shows and movies and games and all of this, and they always change them a little bit. So
It's true. Okay, so while everyone is going to quote tweet and tell me about their favorite Ninja Turtles, and NJ and Charlie are going to tell me about their favorite Ninja Turtles, bro, you're blowing my mind here, Baptiste. Because here's my perception of ninjas, and like I am far from a ninja scholar or anything,
mm,
but what I had understood was that ninjas were often, well, like samurais were kind of the top tier class, right? And they were sort of the ruling class, and they like trained in the katana, and they had their armor, and they were, yeah, they and that's what they did. Their whole life was dedicated to like Bushido and the
mm.
code and learning to fight. Ninjas had, I mean, the way that I have understood it, I don't want to be offensive, but the way that I've understood it is they didn't like follow the honor code or whatever. They were just about, they were assassins. Then they would
Mm.
use the weapons that they used were like little sickles and that sort of thing. They were farm tools that they would use as weapons, and they would sneak up and assassinate samurai. Clearly, I have some of this wrong, so please enlighten
But
me on.
I think a lot of it is the media widespread it. Like the ninjas like lurking in the dark, assassinating people, and
Mhm,
a lot of it is true and did happen.
mhm.
Uh, now, all right, let's talk really about the period of Undead Samurai, which is like Undead Samurai is like early 17th century, but It's at the end of like a 100 years conflict called the Sengoku Jidai, and it had another name before, right? So Japan changed a lot during that period, and that's really when ninjas became very important. It started, if I remember correctly, it started more as groups of people who were fighting guerrilla warfare. So they would specialize in like assassination or stealing information, slowing armies down, all of this. But most of them actually were the commanders of the ninjas were samurai themselves. So the Hattori clan, the Iga, the Fuma are a bit different. That's why they are the bad guys in Undead Samurai. They are part of the bad guys. So you had all those clans that were related to samurai clans. So now, obviously, they probably had their own code of honor and all of this. That might have been different from the samurai, but even the samurai tended to have different code throughout Japanese history. It wasn't always one samurai culture.
Sure.
Now, you mentioned something is like samurai were with the katana. Actually, I think I've read that most of them didn't fight with katana per se, but one more popular weapon would have been a spear. That's in some period of history. Samurai were fighting more on horse, so they would use a spear. Originally, samurai were fighting with bows and arrows.
Right.
So the first samurai were mounted archers. I think that's the origin of the name samurai.
Oh, really?
I hope I'm remembering this correctly, because those research start to date a little bit. But yeah, so there's not a clear cut. There's not such a clear cut between samurai and ninja. And like I mentioned, this guy Hanzo Hattori, who is one of the most famous ninja of Japanese history, he would sit at his lord's side and advise him and sometimes admonish him too. You know, like he told him, like when Tokugawa Ieyasu wanted to have his son commit seppuku, he's the one who defended the son, right? So he said, no, you shouldn't ask this of your son, and blah blah blah. So they were not just in the dark listening to orders and going to answer some missions and all of this. It was way deeper than that.
This Ninja Turtle question is hard. That's really interesting, though. In the chat, we got Tatiana Obi, who you had to come through for my samurai chat.
Nice.
Right. She wrote Sister Samurai. Yes,
I love Sister Samurai. I started it in the train just as I finished my trip in China. So I think I read 20%, 25%, and I couldn't find the time. But Tatiana, Sister Samurai is what I'm reading right now, on top of 2 or 3 other books.
Nice. Yeah. I'm excited to jump into that one. But she does corroborate what you're saying. And yes, a lot of romanticization. What she said. Yes.
But I think I want to use this chance to go back to this. I am reading it. I love the voice. The voices of Sister Samurai is really good.
Nice.
And so I wanted to go back to this 1-star review that got us connected. And
yes. So briefly, I want to, like, this person, this Joker, who's clearly wrong. And I can say that because I'm not you, but this person says, I DNF'd as I just couldn't get past the hyper feminist that stated tradition is our enemy. It neither fits the claim of historical accuracy nor the actual history of female warriors in Japan. The author claps himself on the back for being historically accurate in the summary and then entirely subverts the culture. It's frustrating. And Audrey, you're wrong. Audrey, you have no idea. Audrey, gosh, you just enjoy the book. Come on. It's like, this is for Undead Samurai too. So like, if someone's upset about the historical accuracy in Undead Samurai, like, we're gonna, take some liberties here. But anyway, all right. Now that I have skewered this person, you go ahead and say what you were going to say, Baptiste.
So now this person, Audrey, mentioned that one of my characters, two or three of my characters actually might be hyper feminist because they are women from samurai clan who are against tradition that puts women, into its very often given position, to stay at home, not fight, and blah blah blah. And she says that it goes against the Japanese culture. But the thing is, there is no such thing as one Japanese culture that remained the same for the last 1,500 years. and you can't say, no, it's against the culture. Like, which part? What period of history are we talking about?
Right.
Now, the story of Undead Samurai, like I mentioned, takes place at just after the war, the Civil War ended. And I love this setting, and I'll use it again in different cultures as well, because after the war is usually when a country is changing a lot, because it was forced to change during the war. And you see it happening all over the human history. When a big war happened, social changes happen right after. So you take France after World War One. France had one of the craziest divorce rate of its history after World War One, because women for 4 years were put in charge of home, the fields, the factories. Then suddenly the men came back and they wanted to go back to the way it used to be.
Run everything, and the women were like,
no, now we know
buddy.
we do that. So a big divorce rate. And Japan is the same. So at the end of Sengoku Jidai, I imagine, even though it didn't go as easily, a lot of women during the Civil War, they were put in charge of their own castle, of their clan. Some of them even went to fight, not as much as the romanticized history would have us believe, but yeah. So you had all those changes, and of course some women would be against going back to the way it was before, because they had this nice level of authority they didn't used to enjoy. So that's why, I was like, Audrey is not wrong per se, it's just she's not accurate too. And again, I think you're making like such a good story.
Yeah. If your zombie samurai book isn't 100% historically accurate, no. But like, I think you make such a good point too. That like, yeah, it's not a monolithic culture that stays the same for 1,500 years. That's ridiculous to even presume. Yeah, that's a good point. But also, there's zombies, so like, take it with a grain of salt, right? Like, right? You should.
It's not going to be perfect, and I never claim, as far as Undead Samurai is concerned, that I was 100% historically accurate. I don't know where she got it. I think it comes from my bio on my Amazon page. I need to refresh it. This one's on me. Audrey.
Yeah. Okay. Just thinking about what where do we want to go next? There's so many things we could talk about. Oh, I asked you why did you decide to become a writer? And you had this really interesting answer of like, nobody decides. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a tough gig, to be a writer. It has to be done with passion, but with I think with a passion you can't really explain. Because it doesn't make sense. It's not logical to want to be a writer in this day and age. And in a sense, like, it's really tough to break in. You don't make enough money. I mean, some people do, but I don't. It's very slow. It's very slow. It takes a lot of patience, something I don't have, right? So I think you start writing because you have no choice, because you have stories that you want to tell, and because characters are in your head and they are driving you crazy. If you don't, being a writer, it's like having this song in your head, and you can't get rid of it until you sing it out loud, And I think that's writing is.
I love that.
Until you write your stories and you write your characters' life, and it's going to be in the back of your head, and it doesn't leave you alone. Now, the problem is, when you start doing this, first, you can get addicted. Second, new stories will replace the ones you've written. So, yeah, it doesn't stop.
Yes. Yeah. Right. So, I've got like a dozen different books I want to write, and I'm so slow. It's going to take me so long.
No, that's the thing, like, this year, 2024, is a year I don't want to write too much. I want to finish editing. I want to publish books I have, so that I can start writing those stories again. Those new stories that keep like cramming my mind, and they will
Love it.
happen. But yeah, I'm
Love
trying
it.
to slow down a bit the writing.
Have you ever seen that, like, this used to be a thing of, like, I didn't choose the thug life chose me? That I feel like that's what it is about writing, right?
Yeah, it is. No, absolutely. This thing chooses you. You
Yeah.
don't choose it. Yeah. But if you're lucky enough, you you love the process too. And I think that's what a lot of writers maybe don't have. And I don't know how they do, because I love writing and I start to love editing too. But a lot of writers, I think, they love the finished product. They love having books with their names. They love that they've written a story, but they didn't love the process. And I have so much respect for them, because I don't know how I could do if I actually didn't love the process of writing a whole book.
I feel like there are days where I'm not loving the process, and but I think the problem for me is, like, I'm putting too much pressure on myself. And if I can kind of just remove the pressure, then it makes it so much more fun,
Yeah. So you mean pressure because people are going to read it, or?
Yeah, like, oh, I want it to be good. I want to work. I want to hit goals of getting done and quickly, which is not fucking quickly, because anyway, like, but yeah, if I can just be like, no, you know what, like, let's just have fun writing this story that I think is going to be neat, then it is so much more enjoyable.
Yeah,
that's the attitude. Go ahead.
You don't need to publish everything you write, and
yeah, true.
It removes the pressure, I think, when you think like this, when you're like, of course, you feel like you may have wasted a lot of time, but not really, because you improve so much every book you write, I think.
Right.
And just the idea that you finished a book is pretty amazing. And if it's good, you can publish it. If not, that's fine.
I love that. Yeah. Tatiana, I love both your questions, and I'm going to get there. I just want to segue into that real quick. So we talked about, you didn't choose to be a writer. Writing chose you. But I asked you, I can't remember which question I asked you, but you said to me that your best friend and you were getting ready to welcome a pen friend from England, and you thought of buying a video game that you could all play together.
Yeah.
And you forgot why you chose this one, but you ended up buying Dynasty Warriors 4. Super. I don't know if you haven't played the Dynasty Warriors game. Just imagine you're like on a horse as like a very
Chinese
old
warrior,
right? And you've got like a huge like either sword or staff, and you're just mowing through like crowds of enemies, just swinging your thing all over the place and watching them like fly, and it's just a delight. Anyway, but so you picked up Dynasty Warrior 4. I knew you would, Tatia. And the game, and it shaped your future. You finished it and basically ran to buy a copy of The Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and it was your new passion for life.
Yeah.
I love this story. Fantastic. Tell us a little bit more. Like, I mean, did your pen friend from England love the game? Like,
I actually don't remember this part. No, all right, this is the full story. I'll make it short. But my best friend and I, we bought a PlayStation 2 together. Right? We didn't have a lot of money, so we pitched in together. I had to clean my grandma's car like 10 times to gather the money, and then we bought a PS2, and we couldn't buy a lot of games with what was left of the money. And then 2 months later, we received pen friends from England. There was this exchange program, so we got two teenagers from South England coming in our homes, and we were like, since we are going to spend a lot of time together, let's buy one game that we can play like 2 people at least at the same time. We went to the video games store, bought the Dynasty Warriors 4, and we played this game. First, that was just my best friend and I, because those guys were not here yet. We wanted to test it by ourselves, and we played this game, and that was so good. And at the same time, the story wasn't perfect. As in, it didn't look tailored for the game. It didn't look like a streamlined story with the bad guy staying all the way to the end, and like some of the heroes were dying at awkward moments. It didn't feel perfect. It felt like real, in other words. And then at the end, you have the credits going down, and it says like those character stories are recorded in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. And I was like, oh my god, that's a book. So I went to the bookstore, Amazon didn't exist back then, or barely did it. So I had to go to bookstore. I ordered The Romance of the Three Kingdoms. That was the wrong one. That was actually a comic book about Three Kingdoms. But still loved it. And as soon as I could, I got the actual book. And I don't know why, but this book, it clicked right away. That was
Right.
like, yeah, I love this thing so much, and it became a passion. Yeah.
Was that kind of like the turning point too, where you were like, you know what, I want to like live in East Asia, or were you?
No, I was already interested, but I think before that, I was mostly interested in Japan, and then reading about the Three Kingdoms and playing this game made me realize how interesting China is as well. So yeah, I think that opened up my mind to more than just Japan, if you want.
Very cool. Very interesting. Okay, a couple chat things to go through. Where do I even start? We'll start with Tatiana. Dynasty Warriors, extremely historically accurate. obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously.
No,
NJ, go ahead, Baptiste.
No, it follows the romance of the Three Kingdoms mostly, which is the classic Chinese book, which is not historically accurate at all.
Okay. Don't kill me, Nick, but I can't get into Dynasty Warriors. It's cool, man. I'm not gonna kill
Completely
you.
understood.
It's all right, baby.
Yeah.
It's all good, baby. Don't you worry.
It's not for everyone.
Bo says, what? Now you wait. Oh yeah, no, sorry. This is the one I wanted. Bo, you're running around swinging your thing. NJ, maybe that could kind of get you into the thing, Maybe. Like getting back to my zombie story, just taking it all the way back. No. Too far? Too much? No.
Oh, yeah, that has to happen. Yeah. This story.
You were fun, Baptiste. I appreciate you.
I can't wait for the title reveal. Masturbating story.
I don't even know what I called that thing. Whatever. It has some junk title with that, but
I'm sure.
Okay. Real questions. I'm gonna put these two kind of together. Tatiana asked first, how do you research for your historical fiction? But then related, she asked, how do you write so fast, and what is your writing process? So I think the research kind of goes along with your writing process.
Yeah. So when I research, I'm really focused on researching. So for example, the Three Kingdoms Chronicles, like my baby was just born, and I wanted to spend all the time possible at home taking care of the baby and my wife, and so that still left me with a lot of time. So I started researching heavily, and for 2 months all I did with my free time was researching.
You spent wait a minute, I'm sorry.
What is it?
You just had a baby and you felt like you still had a lot of time? How?
I mean, at first they sleep a lot, I think taking care of a newborn baby is way easier than taking care of a toddler, right? They can't move around. They are not a danger to themselves.
This is true. Like I just spoke with someone else who probably just had their baby, but spoke to them on a Discord, and I was like, listen, the first 6 months are not that hard. Yeah. They need food, they need sleep, they need to be burped, they want to cuddle, or they need a diaper change. You run through that list in whatever order makes most sense to you at the time, and you got them covered,
Exactly. Right. So that's I use this opportunity, I would say, to really research, and I don't know how many books and essays and all of this I read, probably 50 to 60 different books in this very specific period of time, or related periods of time, like what happened a little bit before, a little bit after. And then I just basically copy paste everything I can. I have to record some by hands too. All the information I found interesting, I try to keep them. And then I ended up with a document that is about 130 pages of just blunt information on that topic. That I kind of felt, but I tried to put them by category, like food, architecture, organization, and all of this, right? So that's my research method, if you want.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So and obviously for the Three Kingdoms, I heavily researched Undead Samurai, not as much. I still kept it accurate because that's a period of time I knew well, and a culture I know pretty well too.
Right.
So I think there are no inaccuracies, but I didn't research as heavily.
Now, except the zombies.
I made up the zombies. I completely made up. It's going to come as a surprise but the zombies are not real, and they are not feminist either. Huh? And now for the writing process, I'm a plotter. I love to plot books. That's the part of writing that I think it's still the part that I prefer. And I spend usually about 1 week plotting a book in a detail, and until I have about a 10 pages plot. And basically, I consider it my first draft, and the rest is just making this plot expand into a book. And usually, first draft takes me 2 weeks to 1 month to write ish.
2 weeks to a month to write the 10 pages?
No,
the
the
10
first
pages?
draft.
Okay. What? Wait a minute.
So
after you get like you get a 10-page outline, and you turn that into a full first draft in 2 weeks?
I think the fastest book I've written is the second of Three Kingdoms Chronicle, and I think that was 17 days exactly.
I really liked you up until this point, and now I don't.
Sorry. So yeah, no. When
wow,
I love to write a lot at one time, and if it takes more than 2 or 3 months, I lose my motivation. So I want to write as fast as possible, and then I leave it on the side for 1 month, and I do 5 to 10 drafts on it. Then send it to the editor.
How what does your first draft look like? Like how messy is it versus how clean? And like, do you, because like I've talked with like, god damn, I'm so sorry about the cough, but I think Mary Robinette Kowal, she'll like put like brackets and be like, fix this, or like insert name for thing here or whatever, that sort of thing. Do you do that when you're doing your first draft?
No, it's pretty clean in that sense. Like I don't.
God damn it, Baptiste!
No,
couldn't you just lie to me? Couldn't you just be like, "Oh, it's so messy"? Oh,
sorry. No, sometimes I will leave notes like check the historical accuracy, or I leave notes, for example, when I'm going like trying to remember how long has passed between the chapter 1 and chapter 3. So I say 3 days later, and I'm like, yeah, you really have to check this, because I tend to forget how long has passed in the story.
So that's impressive as hell, man. Like, I'm obviously giving you a hard time, but like, that's damn well done.
No, I mean, what's really impressive to me is people who write one book over a year or 2 years, or I mean, this is amazing. How do you keep the voice going, and how do you have the patience and the motivation to keep going? This I can't do. That's something I cannot do. For me, that has
I know
to
you're
happen.
genuine. I know it, but I feel patronized. I'm like, no. You're so impressive, taking so long. Like the fact that you took 2 weeks to run a marathon is so cool, dude. You just kept going. Oh man, like look at you.
No, what I do is a marathon. What people who write slower is it's a trek, right? It's a journey, like with stops and no.
I feel like you run a sprint, and I'm fucking marching my way to Mordor.
That's a cool story too.
Yeah.
So that's about my writing process.
Exactly. Y'all are so slow, and you just don't give up. How do you do that?
No. Do not quote me on this. Not like this.
Yeah, that's funny. I just snorted.
My point was, how do you keep the consistency? How writers manage to keep the consistency of the voice? Like I'm going. My entire personality will change in the next 6 months. So if I write the same book, it's not going to work.
Billboard material. That quote. Yep. Agreed. No. That's cool, man. That's amazing. That's really amazing. Well. Damn. Okay, so
stumped you there. Sorry.
Sorry, everyone. Okay, so the Three Kingdoms Chronicle, you have that envisioned as like 12 books. Yeah.
The main series is 12 books plus a few spin-offs here and there.
Amazing, but you're gonna need a cover artist in different poses.
I think I will need an illustrator at some point.
Yeah. There you go. That's cool. And you got Undead Samurai. Is there? I mean, yeah, Undead Samurai just came out in February, but you said you got another book coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, so the next one is the book number 4 in the Three Kingdoms Chronicles, which is actually a novella coming May 8th. And then right now I'm writing the spin-off to basically a companion book to the third, right? So there's a companion book to Dynasty Killers, which is the third in the Three Kingdoms Chronicle. And then I will write a second novella, so that which is book 4.5 if you want. And then I will take a small break in the Three Kingdoms Chronicles, because there is actually a small break in the story. So basically the 12 books are covering 3 major arcs. And book 4 and book 4.5 they really mark the end of this first arc of the story. Then there will be a 8 years gap in the story, so I will take maybe a year to research more, plot more for the second arc. So that's why I wanted to write them very soon, so that I can do something else in between. Except I got one of the nicest reviews last month, I think. Someone basically asking me in the review to focus entirely on Three Kingdoms Chronicles, because I'm guessing this person is not very young and wants to read the end of this story while they still have time. And I'm like, the pressure. It's beautiful. That's a beautiful review, but at the same time, yeah, it really motivated me to keep going and keep writing more and more. But yeah, so Three Kingdoms Chronicles in the end should be about 15 books altogether.
Man, super cool. All right, and you know what? Excuse me. We got way more folks hanging out now than we did, when we first started talking. Yep.
Let's hang out.
So I am. I'm gonna share your cover again. Undead Samurai. Everyone ought to go pick that up. Good time. I love. Can you kind of give us the pitch again and like talk about again, because there's more like people have joined over time. So talk a little bit about what this story is about and kind of the structure of the story again, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a story set in 1625 in Japan. So right at the end of a civil war that basically shook Japan for like 100 years. And finally there is peace, except this peace is being threatened by the drum master. So the drum master is a mysterious man who owns a drum that gives him power to revive the dead. So with a strike of the drum, he can basically call zombies. And a young daimyo gathers a team of 9 warriors to send them on a journey to destroy the item giving power to this drum master. So that's really the basics of this story. And those 9 warriors, they come from different backgrounds. Some of them, you might know of them because one of them is Miyamoto Musashi, who is a fairly famous swordsman. The main character in this book is called Ronin. So it's quite a generic term for a masterless warrior, samurai. And so yeah, it's full of action and zombies and a little bit of fantasy, but I still try to make it fairly historically accurate. And I think the strengths in that book are really the characters themselves and the relationship they develop to each other, the friendship, you would say, they develop during this story.
Would you call it a fellowship that they develop?
I can't. I'm sure I legally can't, because it's 9 characters going to destroy an item power. so yeah.
No, but it sounds super fun. And when you mentioned at the beginning of the interview that the parallels kind of, you didn't even recognize them until someone had pointed it out to you when the story was done. But I think those parallels are a wonderful thing.
That's a very. I used to call it like the Walking Dead meets the Seven Samurai, and then someone said no, it's more like the Lord of the Rings meets Rogue One, and I was like, that's perfect. It's it's the Lord of the Rings meets Rogue One in ancient Japan. That's plus some zombies.
Well, I'm on board with a pitch like that. How could I not?
So this one is a standalone. This book is a standalone, but it will fit into the Undead universe, if I may call it like this, where I will use the same kind of idea in different times and cultures. as I see fit. Now, the issue is that most reviews mention how much they liked. Sorry, I don't mean it. I don't mean it as a brag, by the way. I just mean that one of the things people like in this book is the Japanese culture. So right now I'm plotting a prequel to Undead Samurai that is also in Japan.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Baptiste, this has been delightful. I feel like I could chat with you for much longer, but my cough will not allow me. Otherwise, as Bo said, I think I might actually turn into the Undead Samurai. No, but this was super fun. I appreciate you indulging me with talking about my stupid zombie story. And
No, I can't wait to read it.
if you do, let me know. I would love to hear you, like
Yeah.
your laugh on my take. That's good fun. Yeah. Where can people find and follow you online, please?
So obviously Twitter, very easy to. I think that's where we connected. It's very easy to find me on Twitter. I have a Facebook page. I don't do much with it, but you're welcome to check. Instagram, and I'm trying TikTok too. I'm trying recently. Can't stand this app, but I got to try. You can go check my website. So it's baptistepinsonwood.com, and feel free to subscribe to the newsletter. I'm trying to send a bonus chapter to the Three Kingdoms Chronicles every 2-3 months. I'm a bit slow recently with this one. But so you can get bonus chapters. I just published an interview with my characters. I interviewed my characters on the blog. It's pretty. I had quite a bit of fun with this.
That's a cool idea.
So yeah, come say hi. I don't bite, contrary to my zombies. And,
nice.
And I'd love
nice
to know what all of you think about my books.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Go say hi to Baptiste. Go check out his work. Go read Undead Samurai. That sounds super fun. And all of his other works. And apparently there's going to be more and more stuff to read. So,
Yeah. Like this August, I'll use this chance. August should be the date for the release of my trilogy, which is a retelling of Ragnarok. So we move back to Europe here.
That's exciting. Getting away from East Asia, go to Europe. That's So I'm excited to see the different things that you do, because clearly you have like this interest in all sorts of like different historical and sort of mythologies and that sort of thing. So
a lot going on.
Which is this is the way.
This is the way.
All right. Good chat. Thank you for hanging out, Baptiste. Thanks to all of you in the chat. I see you, Tatiana. I see you, Blue Smoke Books. Thank you, Caden, NJ, Bo, Charlie, everyone that's been around. Thank you for hanging out. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. That was nice.
Yep. And if no one's told you today, you're an absolute legend.